Hello, and welcome to the podcast where everyone's a celebrity. The Everyone's a Celebrity podcast. Thank you for listening.
He pulled a Ted Cruz, man.
Yeah, I'm just like, what are you talking about? And she's like, where are you? And I was like, I didn't want to show her, but then my son was like, oh, let's face check. I was at the beach. I was in Santa Monica.
Oh, no.
So I'm like laid out in Santa Monica while they're over there freezing with no power. And
How was your first spar? Do you remember it?
horrible. Funny enough, it was a shack.
Oh, no.
Yeah, just
And I'm like, put me up with a bum. I want the worst fit, least fit.
he's fighting for a sandwich. Perfect. Perfect.
That's my guy. Set it up.
How long have you been over the road, man? And he was like, I haven't stopped for 3 months. And I was like, how the hell?
Howdy, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. This is Everyone's a Celebrity, the podcast show where everyone is a celebrity. I was at my local Bella Green the other day, just saying hi to my old coworkers and maybe looking at it, getting a little treat, when I ran into none other than Eusebio Gomez. I saw him at the booth getting a carrot cake, and I knew I had to go in for an interview. Now, this was no ordinary interview because me and Eusebio are good friends and old co-workers, actually. We used to work at State Farm together, and we just kind of got caught up, talked about a few things that was going on in his life and what he was doing in a few of the last, major history events that we've all just lived through. So this is our interview, this is our talk. We go into a wide variety of topics and everything, so I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Without further ado, Eusebio Gomez. We got Eusebio here. We want to go ahead and give your full name and affiliation.
Affiliation. Who told you?
I see all those tattoos, man. I'm not blind.
FBI don't want to know. No, just Eusebio Gomez Cardenas, Mexican as fuck. No.
All right, we live. We got 1,003 hours to talk, and not a second over.
1,000.
Man. So it's pretty cool that I thought about what is it called? I thought about it's actually really fitting that we did it here because right in 2020 when I was trying to find a place really quick and I stayed at your place, you let me stay there. This is actually where I started working at that time, and so I was working here for at least a year and a half after that. So I thought that was kind of perfect. But how was your upbringing? Did you feel like you liked your life growing up, or was it we're going right into it, right? No,
I feel like my life should have been good, except I'm kind of hard-headed and stubborn. So I made my life complicated, even to this day,
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Because I have both my parents, where 90% of people would be quit bitching.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. And so no, it just I'm from Mexico. Was born there.
Where in Mexico?
Michoacan.
Michoacan. I always ask that. I know any Mexican geography at all. So help me out here. Where is that?
It's more south, west coast.
Okay.
They're more of what they call a tropical kind of thing. So they are big on shrimp and seafood, which I can't stand.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so that's an issue.
How long were you there?
I was born there, and I think we took off when I was 2.
Oh, dang, okay.
As soon as my other brother was born, we took off, and we moved to California. We were there till I was 5. And I don't know who the hell talked my dad into moving to Texas. I was we were perfectly fine, man.
Yeah.
It wasn't hot.
Yeah.
And so we moved down here, and we ended up moving into a little bit of a duplex. But it was my dad's family, my uncle's family, my other uncle's family, my grandma.
All in the same.
Yeah, it was 20-something people all in the same in a 1-bedroom duplex.
All in the half of the duplex?
Yeah,
oh,
this wasn't a full
shit.
duplex. This is half.
Okay.
And
how did y'all make that work?
Hey man, it just stunk a lot.
Yeah? I mean, I don't care how clean anybody is. You have 20 people in a small area like that.
Nighttime, it doesn't matter. But yeah, we were there for a while. In fact, I still every now and then I'll still stop by just to kind of give me that glimpse of like that's where I come from, you know. Started from the top. But yeah, we were there for a little bit, and then my dad was just like, you know, hey, you know, I kind of need to get my family out of here. So we moved to some apartments not far from there. In fact, the apartment that I live in right now is like up the street from the old apartments that I used to live in.
Dang.
And I found out that the little drive that I take or whatever, there's a haunted bridge.
That's I know.
Manor Bridge or whatever.
Yeah.
Some shit. Anyways, but yeah, like it's pretty cool to kind of go back to where you were at, you know. And
did you go to that haunted bridge a lot when you were like young?
No, I didn't even know it was there. No, when we were at those apartments, I can say that it was pretty cool because like the apartments that we lived in were like a walking distance, like very hella walking distance to like the little corner store. And the corner store guy like knew us. His name was Sonny, and like every birthday he would be like, "Hey, grab something."
Oh, dude, that is dope.
You know, and then this is around the time, maybe for you young viewers, where everything was a quarter. You know, oatmeal cream pie was a quarter. Cosmic brownies were a quarter.
Dude,
the little monkey juice was a quarter.
I forgot about the monkey juice.
A bag of chips was a quarter. So you can go in there and ball out for like $1, man. And then you had a little bit of change. You still get the vending machine, you know.
Oh yeah.
We used to play Cruising World.
I forget that you could really get a bag of chips for like at those little like Walmart kiosks and stuff too. The cardboard ones. You get it for like 25 cents.
Yeah.
Back in my day.
Back in my day. That's how you know you start getting old.
Yeah, for real.
But then we were there for a little bit. It was pretty cool just because, you know, and even there, like, I think like 4 different families lived with us. Even in that, like, even my dad trying to get away, like 4 different families moved in with us. It was terrible, but we made it happen.
Yeah.
And then eventually, he saved up and got a house, and then after that, he just started investing in a lot of houses and renting them. And yeah, and eventually he bought a piece of land, and this is where all the shit kind of gets a little tricky. He bought a piece of land. He wanted to clean it out and stuff like that. So I spent.
And so where this is in still like south, like around Dallas, or
no?
where?
The land that he had, when he originally got it, he bought it in Corsicana, Rice, Corsicana.
Oh, okay.
So he got it, but he didn't want to pay somebody to clean it off, you know, because it was like shrubs and trees and all that shit. So every summer we would have to go out there. So for like 3 years, it was like every summer and every weekend we were out there. Fucking hot as shit, you know.
For real, I'm tired of this.
I'm tired.
It's too
I was like,
man.
It's hot out here, master. And I was like, just let us go. But he just, you know, we were out there and
golly, man,
it sucked.
Yeah,
and then after that,
and how old were you at that time? You said.
I don't know. I can't remember. I think I was like 14 or 15 because I think that's what made me say, hey, you know what? Maybe if I get a job, maybe I don't have to do this no more, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up working at Jack in the Box for like 2 years or something like that.
Okay.
It was cool. The people there were cool, but that's when I learned that customers are assholes. The customer's always right is up my ass, you know? Like, but.
It's a terrible like philosophy, I think, because then like I tell people that all the time. Like all you're doing is hurting your business because you're just giving free stuff out all the time for not even investigating what's going on, and then you're breeding a culture of that where you're just like having people come in. Like even when I worked here, there were people that come in all the time, and you always know that they're going to ask for something free because they expect it, and like why wouldn't they? You know?
Well, the funny thing is like. Not to like switch subjects, but that almost kind of falls in hand with like what's going on with like nowadays, their little cancel culture. I'm like, it's kind of crazy that you got all these people like canceling everybody back and, you know, up and down and back and forth and stuff, but it's the ones that have said like, no, that suddenly it's like, wait, we can't do that? For instance, like Dave Chappelle has made all kinds of comments about all kinds of people, and you know the people that follow him know like, hey, it's just a joke, you know. But whenever he was trying to get canceled, he was just like, yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. And even then, they were like, if y'all don't get Dave Chappelle off, we're gonna cancel our Netflix. And Netflix was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, like I think it's a big part of it is like how much of it you give power over it. Like even when I'm starting this, it's like I want to start a place where people can have open dialogue from any kind of perspective, any kind of culture, any kind of whatever, and it's a safe place that people can talk and be respected still, you know what I mean? And so it's like, you can't, I feel like a lot of the people, the ones that had that ones that were canceled that had the worst like outcomes for them were the ones that were like feeding into it and being like overly apologetic. I wouldn't say like, you know, not apologizing because I don't know what, you know, it depends on the circumstance, but
I don't think it's necessarily like apologizing or who's wrong and who's right. It's just standing for your opinion.
Yeah,
it really
that's
is.
really what it was.
It really does come down to that. Just saying like, hey, you know what? I gave my opinion. It's my opinion. You can't take that from me.
Yeah.
Period.
It's being true to yourself. Yeah.
Because it's usually the people that end up like kind of bowing down almost. That's when they're just like that's when the sharks come in.
Yeah.
Mario Lopez, Kevin Hart. Like I'm like no man. Like and look at the ones that didn't bow down. Cat Williams, Dave Chappelle, Elon Musk. You know.
And you know what's crazy is like I don't even know any of the, because I'm like always the last person to find out about stuff, ironically, but like I don't know any. I forgot what I was even gonna say.
Yeah, you're high, aren't you?
Like, oh yeah. Thanks, bud. Hey, thanks a lot. Yeah, I love how that's like one of my fondest memories of you. I tell people all the time. Yeah, go ahead, man. I'm about to have some ASMR, some carrot cake going.
Hey man, we're gonna chow down.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
But no, one of my favorite memories that I tell people about, and like just whenever something like that comes up, is when we were at State Farm and I was like first starting to smoke, and I was like still kind of like, oh, you know, like nobody's gonna know, nobody can smell this, that, and nobody. I don't think anybody, unless you saw somebody that like knew, I don't think anybody actually knew. I think they just thought I was sleeping. But I remember you just turned to be next to me, and I was so mad at you at the time for this, dude, because I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Shut up! Like I got so nervous because I was high, obviously.
Plus you're paranoid.
Yeah, dude. And you're like, you looked at me, you're like, you looked me dead in my eyes. You're like, are you high? I was like, probably.
You know what's funny about that?
What?
Whenever we were working at State Farm, I'm sitting there like being like I started selling brownies up there, right?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is like it got to a point where like I was selling some good amount of brownies. Like I think in one weekends over the weekends I would have to make like 4 or 5 batches.
And we're talking about Delta 8, of course. So yeah.
The what?
We're talking about Delta 8, of course. So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And Kratom.
Yeah.
And so the funny thing is like as soon as that happened, I'm over here like freaking out. I'm like, they're gonna find out. Yeah. My manager comes up to me and she's like, hey, I heard you sell treats. And I was like, what? And then like she was buying like 3 or 4, and I was like, are these for you? And she was like, no, it's the other managers. They just don't want to come up here and ask you. And I was like, oh, fair enough. And next thing you know, it's like I had another girl in my team that was like also selling the cake pops.
Yeah.
So I had cake pops.
Medicated cake pops?
Yeah, cake pops, and then I had the brownies, and then a friend of mine started, once he saw that, he started making cookies.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, man, this is like a diabetic's nightmare, I don't...
Yeah, happy
and then I'm over here, I'm like, kind of find out like everybody at State Farm was,
That's crazy. All right, well, go ahead and continue on what you were saying before. So you were talking about your dad bought the land and he wasn't ready to.
Yeah, it was horrible, man. That's when I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go work.
Yeah.
So I worked at Jack in the Box for God knows how many years, like 2 years. And yeah, like that's when I guess I started realizing, like, man, customers are not always right. Like you got a lot of customers just trying to get free shit. They're just complaining just to complain sometimes. And I try to give the benefit of the doubt for the most part, but I'm like, no, there's people that are they're just trying to get a quick buck, or they're just trying to get free meals or whatever. And I'm like, no, man. Yeah. That's when you just kind of have to stand firm and just be like, no, if you don't get off my drive-through, I'll call the cops.
Yeah.
Go on. But yeah, and so that was.
Do you feel like you've always been like an assertive person, or is that something that kind of like
I think I had to learn to be assertive, especially being a bartender. Like that was like my next job. Like
Yeah, you'll have to learn it.
Yeah, you kind of have to learn to be assertive because it's like, same thing, it's like if you, because during that time, like I really, you know, the bartenders always kind of looked at as the lead.
As what?
As a lead.
Okay.
So you kind of have to be assertive and you kind of have to like not let people just walk all over you. Plus, there was, you know, I think it wasn't until later on that a manager of mine, or trainee, I can't remember who pointed that out, that he was just like, I think one of the best features that you have, or you know, one of the best things that you have is that you're a silent leader. And I think I learned that from there, where it's like there's a way of being assertive and getting people to help you out and stuff like that without having to cross any lines or be mean or whatever. Hell, sometimes not even saying anything. You know, sometimes if you just get on it, and eventually they'll kind of follow you, and it's just like you kind of learn those kind of things. You know?
Yeah, you definitely have that air about you. I've always noticed that from like the get-go, for sure.
Wait, what?
Like you just you have that. You don't need a whole lot of communication for that, and you don't need to get really angry or crazy to get the point across when you're feeling this kind of way or something like that. You know, it's just like very admirable, I would say. And that's like something I noticed when we were at State Farm, like, because I kind of saw it, but I didn't know it until we were talking about how like you've been fighting for a long time and all that stuff. So like it's definitely something that emanates from you, I would say.
Yeah, no, the whole fighting thing was just, I kind of started that way back in.
Were you doing that like while you were working and like bartending and stuff, or was that not?
No, I had started before, but I never really took it serious. And then once I started bartending, I kind of had a lot of free time because I had a lot of free time, so I just ended up just going to boxing, and I loved it. But unfortunately, you know, things. I really wanted to make it a career, but obviously being old as shit by then, like it didn't quite work out. Yeah, and then I just kind of ventured off into other things, and things kind of went down the drain.
Oh, okay. Well, can we talk about like, I want to like really get into the meat and bones of your like fighting, like what it was like when you first started, when, you know, any like interesting stories you have about that, or because I know you were telling me before like some really interesting just venues that you've like fought at and stuff like that too. Can you like go into any of that?
Yeah. So right off the get-go, like when you start, like it really is one of those things where you kind of have to listen to the coach. I know at first they're gonna sound like assholes. They're gonna seem like they're just either they're not paying attention to you or they're not really caring about you. But it's like, no, all they're doing is just kind of watching you to see if you're gonna come back. You know, it's like, because you have to understand that it's like, in one gym, you know, I'm sure with jiu-jitsu, it's like, I'm sure that you saw somebody come in, they were super ecstatic about it, and then they would only be there for like a week, and then you never saw them again. So it's like, I understand why the coaches do that, where it's like sometimes it seems like they don't even care about you, even though you signed your money, you signed the waivers, you signed everything. Why aren't you paying attention to me? But it's because of that. It's like they know that you're not going to come back for the most part.
You think it's like a vetting kind of thing, like to see if they even want to get invested in you first before?
Basically. Yeah, because once they get to know you, once you actually see like, hey, you've been here 2 months, 3 months, you've been doing the same shit. You come in and you punch the bag and you go home, and they see that you pay attention, you do what you got to do. Eventually, it's like, yeah, they start investing in you, and that's the best feeling ever, because it's like I guess like growing up, I really wasn't too attached to my dad very much. He wasn't, you know, he was around, but it was just like very absent at times. And so whenever a coach came into my life, it almost became like a dad, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just like, you know, you got this, and just very cool guy.
I mean, even knowing like my father and having another father, like just having, like you said, like a jiu-jitsu coach or something like that, they really turn into a father figure like that when you build that relationship. So I get it for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing that even I've always said, even if your father is around, even if you don't have to go through any of that drama, I still feel like, why not enroll your kid into some kind of art, just because it teaches them to listen to somebody else, and it teaches them that it's like, yeah, these are your parents, but this is another grown-up that also wants the best for you.
Yeah.
And you got to listen, you know. My coach he was a bit of a dick, but he knew what he was doing. And that's the thing, that it's like, I think that's what people need to understand, that it's like, you have to learn to trust people that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, because I think nowadays it's gone kind of iffy, where people don't trust each other, obviously, because of like all this shit that's going on. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like that really is it. It's like you just have to learn how to trust people, but obviously figure out who can be trusted, and not because I can tell you a secret, but it's no, they're willing to put in the work, the same work that you're putting into them.
It's you got to wait until that. Like they really reveal themselves in that way,
Just like, and I'm gonna butcher this one, but it's like just like Bob Marley said, it's like everybody in your life is gonna hurt you, but who is gonna be worth the pain? And that's kind of where you're at, you know. It's like that's kind of what happens with the coaches. It's like, he's gonna push you to your limits. He's gonna make you puke. He's gonna make you hurt. He's whatever, but you have to trust that he knows what he's doing for a reason. He's there for a reason. And that was kind of it. And eventually, you know, I kind of took a hold of that, and it started kind of getting a little serious.
So like when you first went into that gym that you were talking about now, did you have any boxing experience at all, or were you like growing up doing anything at all, or?
No, not at the very first time. Like I had no experience whatsoever, and it was really scary. I remember that because I remember there was this guy named Shaq.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, no, he wasn't a big dude. He was just, he was kind of lanky, you know? But
well, still, man, sheesh.
But can you imagine it, and this is going to sound really bad, but it's like, can you imagine walking into a gym and you see this really scrawny black dude with messed up cornrows.
With messed
up cornrows.
Oh,
like,
no.
Like for some reason his cornrows were always messed up, you know? Like, I never saw him fresh. But whenever he hit the fucking bag, like, it was like thunder, you know? It was just like, and I remember just like hearing him, and I was just like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
And the very first time that you know, because what we do is like we do back and forth drills where he'll say something like 2 jabs straight right, and obviously it's just to prepare the other person to kind of learn how to counter that part.
So did you like even know how to throw a punch at that time, or no? Okay. So yeah, I've always wondered about that. So go ahead.
No, I was fresh out the block, man. Like I just
So are they actually like kind of guiding your hand, like guiding your fist, and like showing you this is how you extend and all that? Okay.
So eventually, like I said, it's like whenever he started actually like saying like, hey, you know, let me step in a little bit. He was just like, you know, he would go around and just like, hey, you know, keep your hand like this, block like this. How about next time you try this? Move around. And stuff
that's
like
not
that.
Something that's like you get there and they're like, all right, we're gonna show you how to throw a punch, and then
not in a lot of gyms. I'm pretty sure there's gyms where they do that and stuff like that, but not in a lot of gyms.
Yeah.
And same thing, and it's also because you have to understand that it's like you have your kids that are just there to train, and then you have your kids that are there to compete.
Yeah.
So obviously during certain seasons, certain times of year, he has to be paying more attention to these kids because these kids are actually there to compete and do other things, as opposed to these kids are just there to kind of, you know, just get fit, get exercise in. And so he would just do that, and it was scary at first, and just eventually I started kind of realizing like, hey, I'm actually not bad at this, you know. And
how was your first spar? Do you remember it?
Horrible. Funny enough, it was with Shaq. Yeah, just because me and him were about the same height. Because I was like 18 at the time. No, I was younger than that. Yeah, I was younger. So I was already kind of older for the kids section, you know. So it's like he kind of had everybody just kind of mixed in, you know, kids, adults, everybody was kind of all mixed in. So it's like I was kind of about the same height, except he was a little taller than me. Yeah. So it was one of those things where he was like, "Hey, who can you do?" Oh, Shaq. I was just like, "Oh, Jesus." But you can tell that he really was going easy on me. And the thing about it is,
could you tell back then? Like,
you can tell. Just because like the way he moved and stuff like that, I was just like, "No, you're going easy on me, man." And especially because I had already seen him spar before, and I was just like, man, this dude's fucking crazy. And suddenly he's like with me, and he's just kind of like doing this, and I was just like, oh man, he's just playing around
with his food.
He's just playing around. But I'm like, well, you know, I remember telling him afterwards, I was like, hey man, thanks for going easy on me.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah man, we're not here to kill each other, we're here to learn.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, thanks.
That's cool.
That. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think everybody there eventually just kind of becomes like a little family and stuff, just because, you know, we eat, sweat, bleed, boxing, and that's what everybody's there for. And eventually they just kind of, it's almost like the Marines, you know, it's like you just become, they're your brothers, you know. And so and then, you know, you got your dad, and his wife was always there too, so she becomes like a mom because she eventually, like, once, same thing, is like when she starts investing in you, she would be like, hey, let me wrap your hands, or hey, while you're doing this, go ahead and I'll go ahead and, give you some water. Or whenever we were sparring, she was the one at each corner, hey, watch out for this, da 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 da, and giving us water and,
It's cool.
Pep talk. So yeah,
Big old happy family for real.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, there was that, and then, but then eventually I just kind of got a little over the top with it, and it almost becomes like, you almost become cocky. Like that's what I've always said, is like, you're gonna, like, whenever people are like, hey, how'd you get into it, blah, 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 I'm like, you have to understand, it's like, don't let the cockiness get too much, It's gonna happen, you're gonna learn from it, but don't let it become too much, And that was my issue, because eventually, like, I started kind of picking fights every now and then.
Oh, no, yeah.
And then suddenly, like, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go join MMA. And I did. And so I was training boxing here and MMA here. And it was just like, and I guess because of that little thing or whatever, because in MMA, they teach you different stances and stuff like that, throws, punches, things that are not in boxing. So I kind of had, once I started realizing, like, hey, I kind of have a bit of a leg up, with some of these kids.
Yeah.
I was like, cool. And that's kind of where I was just like, but I can't wail on these kids,
Okay.
So then that's when I started realizing, like, no, I got to tame it down,
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I learned from that.
Nice. So when were you competing, like, all throughout this time, or tell me a little bit about when you started, like, competing and stuff?
Yeah, eventually I started competing, just Texas tournaments, the Texas tournaments. I can't remember because they do give you your books. I can't remember how much, or what was my record at the time. But I was up there.
Yeah,
and
I remember you told me it was very impressive. It was like,
my ranking was
he was 35-0. No, I don't know. It was something
way more than that.
No, I was about to say it was. Just give us a estimate just for the crowds.
I want to say about 70 something and like 3, I think. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I remember it was something. Yeah, like that.
But you also have to remember that during those tournaments, during those whatever, they're not 12 rounds. A lot of those fights are like 3 rounds. In one weekend, you can easily fight 4 or 5 times in one weekend, just because it'll be something like you box in the morning. And it's a tournament, so it's like once they're done, they just kind of match you up, and you can easily fight like 5, 6 times in one weekend. Obviously, put that together with over 2-3 years or something like that, it accumulates. Hell, there's been boxers like Canelo and some of these other ones that have like Lomachenko. I think he's got like 300 and something fights, amateur fights. So it's like they add up. They definitely add up.
Okay.
But yeah, eventually, I unfortunately, I got knocked out, and I think
that like?
What's that like?
Yeah.
Not good at all. It's funny. It's like you almost don't even remember being knocked out. It's one of those things where you almost like in the little stages of your little dream or whatever, you almost continue fighting.
Yeah.
So you wake up and you're like, no, I was beating his ass. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, dude, you've been asleep for 15 minutes. Like we're on the way to the hospital right now. You're like, what?
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, and there's plenty. Like, in fact, go watch like all the interviews of like UFC or boxing or stuff like that. It's like a lot of them will be the same thing. In fact, like if you ever watch a UFC, they get knocked out. They wake up,
they're still swinging
like,
sometimes.
Yeah, and they'll sit up and they're like, what are you like? What?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, they really do think that they're still fighting, and it's just your brain just.
So in that moment, are you actually like in a vision of like still fighting, like kind of like when it happened in the shows where you're like just kicking the guy's ass and then you just wake up?
Yeah, basically that's basically it. You're just kind of there, and then it's more of a like it doesn't take very long. It's more of a like split second. It's more like you're there.
It's still just
you're still fighting, and it's like suddenly you wake up and you're like, wait, what happened? And they're just like, no, you've been out for 15 minutes. You're like, no, it didn't. Like, like what are you talking about? Like,
it's like if you just woke up right now in your car and I'm like, Eusebio, wake up.
Basically.
Yeah.
Which, dude, honestly, that is one of my worst fears.
Really?
Yeah. As soon as I saw, what was that movie, Disturbia?
Oh, I don't think I've seen it.
With what was her name? The crazy chick. The one that played Catwoman. Halle Berry.
Halle Berry, yeah.
Whenever I saw that movie, that was the scariest fucking shit to me.
What happened? I don't know see it.
She woke up in a mental hospital, and they were like, "No, you killed your husband." And she was like, "What? No, I couldn't have." And to me, like that, and waking up one day and somebody telling you like, no, that person was never real, or what are you talking about, you know?
Or just like, oh yeah, what? 9/11, what?
Or like, for instance, like if they were to say like you wake up one day, or you go to your mom's and you're like, hey, Sarah's gonna come over, and they're like, who's Sarah?
Yeah.
You know, and
something like that.
You're just like, no, Sarah, you know, my wife. Or,
I'm just afraid of waking up in like a totally different timeline where it's just like, yeah, like what are you talking about? George Bush, 9/11, Iraq? That didn't what?
What? Why are you wearing that tie-me clothes? Like, dude, honestly, I know it sounds funny, but that scares the shit out of me.
Sometimes I wonder how it would be if I woke up and I was like 5, and they're like, "Yeah, time to go to school." And I'm like, "All right, I'm about to do it this time, boy."
I think that wouldn't be a good idea for me, simply because like I know for a fact I would start gambling. You know, I would have my own little.
Like I'm hitting the stock market.
Yeah, stock market, gambling. I'm starting my own little crew at the kindergarten yard. I'm doing all kinds of shit. And you know what's the worst thing that I thought about doing if I ever do, you know, for some reason go back to being 5? I would definitely use my knowledge to like try to overpower teachers and adults. You know, like just
really
throw some like crazy
off the wall,
off the walls like antics, like, you know, just so that they can be like, what? I know that you do this after school.
Yeah, I was about to say just something like real medial that they do like every day. But you're just like, I know.
Yeah, that's what I would do. That's why I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea for me, even if it's possible. But yeah, back to boxing. Yeah, it was just that, and then eventually I got knocked out. I went to a bit of a depression. I started sticking more to MMA. That's when I started doing more jiu-jitsu. I think that's when we were kind of talking. I think that's what we started talking a little bit more, was whenever you were like, no, I do jiu-jitsu, and I was like, oh, you butt scooter.
Oh yeah.
What did you call me? I think you called me butt scooter, and I think you called, no, I called you guard puller, and you said butt scooter.
Yeah.
And to this day, it's still and I think I called you that the other day, and I was like, oh, you butt scooter.
Oh, I always saw that, and I was like, why is he calling me a dog? I was like, what the heck? I haven't trained too long. I didn't get the reference right off the bat.
What was your ranking?
I just got a stripe. That's all. That's like I've been training like off and on for like.
You
2,
got a
3
stripe
years.
on white?
Yeah, just
Okay.
a white belt. Yeah.
Okay.
I just that's the first I've ever gotten, but yeah.
But don't they usually give you your blue after like a year of training?
Yeah, but that's if you're there like
Constantly.
3 times a week
okay.
consistently. Yeah, but I was always like, even when I was training and I first got into it, and like I was there every week, I would be there maybe like 2 or 3 times a week, and then once the next week, and then 3 times the next week, and then gone for like 2 weeks or something, and then back again. And, you know what I mean? So it was really inconsistent, and I'm sure my coach saw that like I wasn't growing like I needed to. But I do actually remember when I was training. We were in the gym in Irving, and I was like, it was one of them days. I don't even know if I was doing particularly good, but it was like I was training like every single week consistently for a couple weeks, and that's when I actually finally got it. And I think that's what he was kind of trying to show me, is like, you know, you can't really get too much better if you don't do it consistently and stuff. And yeah, that's something I've always struggled with too, but I'm hoping to get better. I want to get better about it.
Yeah, by all means, man. I think that's the key, consistency. I think they even said like, fuck persistence, it's consistency. You know, like, yeah, you can sit there and like, no, I gotta do it, but it's like, if you don't make it to the gym, it's like, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you ever get to actually like go to any like the tournaments or like any?
I watched some, but I never actually competed, and I still want to at some point. I used to want to do like an amateur like MMA fight at one point, and I feel like it's still on the table, but after seeing more of them, I'm like, maybe I just want to go do jiu-jitsu for a little bit, like, especially as I'm getting a little older, you know, and it's like I'm only losing time on these people that have been training for so long, so it's like, I just want it for the experience.
Especially like I feel like nowadays everybody's just too damn good.
Yeah.
You know, like you go in there and they're white belts and they're just like destroying people, and you're just like, why?
And it's so popular now, they're getting into it so much earlier. Yeah, I'm like, if I do an MMA fight, I'm like, put me up with a bum. I want the worst fit, least fit,
He's got like, I'm talking like, give me the trash man.
He's like, we found the guy. He's fighting for a sandwich. Perfect. Perfect.
That's my guy. Set it up.
Set it up.
Where's the contract?
Did you ever get to train with anybody famous or like go to see anybody famous?
The biggest claim to fame that I think I have with any of that, like not in any of my personal jiu-jitsu, like my coach, I know he has trained some big names before, but what is it? I got to do like a photo shoot with Uriah Hall in the UFC. Yeah, like
I remember seeing him. Uriah Hall?
Yeah, big, tall black dude.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think I was for some reason I thought you were talking about what is the one that invented the 50-50?
That invented the 50-50?
Is it Brian Hall? Ryan Hall?
Oh,
he's the one that invented the 50-50.
I don't know who invented the 50-50.
You don't know the 50-50?
I know what it is, but I don't know who invented it.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was like...
I think it's Brian Hall.
Oh, okay.
He came out on UFC and stuff like that, but I remember...
Oh, like way back in the day.
Yeah. But what's funny is like when he came out, his first fight, everybody was telling his opponent, and they're like, hey, by the way, he's probably going to use the 50-50 on you. And he's like, oh, no, I have a counter for it. He lost to the 50-50 in like 10 seconds. And I was like, they told you. This is like the whole goddamn... Ben Askren and George Masvidal. It was like, dude came in there saying, hey, I'm going to hit you with the knee if you try to shoot. And he's like, I'm going to shoot. He's like, I'm going to shoot.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it. He's not going to do what he... and he did. And then it's like, come on, dude.
Yeah. What's it called? No, I don't think I've seen that one specifically, but...
Can I ask you a question? And I've always been curious. I don't think I've asked you, and if I did, I don't care enough to remember.
Yeah.
But I think we all have that.
It's like, if anybody, you know how terrible I am at remembering stuff. So.
No, it's because like there's a difference between like not remembering and not caring to remember.
Yeah,
Yeah. It sounds bad, but it's like it's the truth.
Right.
We all do it. But did you ever? I forgot what I was gonna ask. Oh, why did you become vegan?
So funny enough, like right across the street, there's a sushi restaurant, and my older brother and his now wife.
You have a brother?
Yeah, I got two brothers.
For some reason, I thought you were a single child.
I seem like a single child?
You seem like a single child.
That's crazy. I don't even want to think about the ramifications of what you just said to me right now.
Of what?
I said, I don't even want to think about. I don't even want to know how you came to that assumption about.
No, because I know
how to share.
No. Like, it has nothing to do with that because my son's an only child and he shares plenty.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
So I got an older brother and a younger brother, and my older brother and his now wife, they were eating vegan. We didn't really even know about it. Like, they might have showed us like one or two things, but they were eating like a little bit vegan here and there, and it just kind of grew. It kind of grew from there, and then eventually, I guess they turned full vegan after like a month or two, because they started noticing how they would feel eating vegan for a day or two, and then having like a burger or something, and they would notice how bad they would feel and stuff. And so they invited me and my mom over there to get some sushi, and I think when we got there, they had already ordered, and so we had this big spread. We were eating, and everything was amazing. It was really delicious, and they let us know like midway through or something. They were like, "Yeah, everything's vegan. There's not any fish here," and I was, we were blown away. And then they brought us back to their house, and we watched. Have you ever seen What the Health on Netflix? It was really popular like a few years ago.
No, the one that got me to finally give being vegan a try was the.
Fighter was Game.
The what?
Game Changers.
Game Changers. Yeah. Yeah, that one was the one that finally like. I remember watching it and I was like, "There's no way."
Yeah. So like that's pretty much the same thing that happened. Like of course, looking back at it, we realized that we got fucking set up. But they, got us all primed up on margaritas and sushi, and like, oh, it's so good. Look how good you can eat while you're vegan.
What a
bitch. Yeah, and then we got back. We got back to the house, and then we were watching it, and it was like all this stuff about, basically just laying out the facts. And
just margaritas and sushi, man.
Yeah,
you would be a great rape victim. Straight up. You would make a great rape victim.
Have you ever seen that video of that guy that's he's like walking out of the store with all his friends, and they all have like pineapple drinks?
No.
He's like, y'all drinking like some bad bitches right now. That's pretty much it. And then that day after we watched it, I don't even know if they really even asked me if I wanted to be vegan or anything. I was like, well, I can't keep eating like this, knowing how, knowing what I know now. And I've always kind of known that. But I've always kind of known that, but I'm like, because I was vegetarian when I was like 6 for about a year, like 5 or 6. So I kind of knew that I was gonna be vegan at some point in my life, maybe. But at the time, I was like really anti-vegan and thought it was dumb and stuff. And so I was a real surprise at the time. Honestly, I don't even know how it really even shaped out that way.
Like that was my whole thing. That I'm like, I remember watching that, and I was like, I want to at least give it a try. And so it wasn't until, I think I told you that, it wasn't until I went to the doctors and they were like, hey man, you got a bit of an issue going on. And I was like, what is it? They're like, you have a heart murmur.
Oh,
like,
shit.
Your heart's not doing all that great. And I was like, oh man, that doesn't sound good.
So a murmur is like the inconsistency in the rhythm?
It's something about the rhythm was just off. What do they call it? Transient idiopathic arrhythmia or something like that?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, but I don't think it was, something I was born with. It was just, my heart was just not doing all that great, probably because all that grease.
Well, all that cocaine, probably. Yeah.
Probably all that shit. So, I remember when I watched it, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try it. But it wasn't until my son's mom walked out that I was just like, I need to make some changes, and that's when I was just like, I'm gonna do it. So I went cold turkey. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I tried. No, I just went cold turkey. And I remember, I think I told you about that.
Yeah.
I was like, I just went cold turkey. And I think my biggest issue was trying to find meals, and I think I asked you about that. And I remember you came over, you cooked and stuff, and I was pretty grateful for that.
Oh yeah. I'm glad it helped.
Yeah, it did help, because I was just like, you know what? And that's when I guess I went to the store and I was like, I found Morningstar. I found obviously I try to still stick with vegetables and stuff like that. And that's when I was like, I remember telling my mom, and my mom was like, oh, well, just do this and just take off the meat. And I was just like, I ended up making like Mexican stew with like just potatoes.
Yeah. You taught me how to make Mexican rice vegan.
Yeah, I did. So it was just different things like that. And I was like, oh, but the thing about it was like, because I started exercising at that time, I almost felt night and day. It was just really night and day, because I remember I went from like running, I think I was being able to run like 5-10 minutes, and I was like, all right, one day I'm gonna get to a mile.
Yeah.
And then after a week of doing it, I was like running 15 minutes. I was like,
you could just keep going.
Yeah, I was
right?
like, what? I was like, hold up. And that's when I guess I kind of realized that. I was like, I think it is because of that.
Dude, that exact same thing happened to me one of the mornings, like 2 weeks after I went vegan. I was just like, I want to go for a run. But imagine like just being able to feel like that when you're like 400 pounds. I'm like, what in the world is happening? Like,
so I started running, and it got to a point where like I think after a few weeks I was able to do an entire hour just running, and I was just like, wow, like, and I felt amazing. Like, I almost felt like I could just breathe easier because I wasn't drinking milk. Obviously the mucus buildup wasn't there, so I was sleeping better. Because I was sleeping better, I was in a better mood. It almost just all kind of went hand in hand, and it felt amazing. And so I did that for like 8 months. And like I said, it's like my mistake was taking a break. I should have never done it. I should have just kept going. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we always watch your back, man. We always got room in the veggie club for you.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've been considering it just because of that I put on more weight, and I have been considering it just because I'm like, I don't. Like, I guess I just don't want the same thing that happened earlier, which was not being able to play with my son, not being able to go out with him, just feeling proud of myself, that kind of thing. And it's like, I don't have that anymore. Even though I still play with my son. Don't get me wrong. Like it's just
Like,
it's
get away,
different.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a little different because like now it's like we go play basketball and he's over there like dribbling stuff because he's starting to get really good.
Yeah.
And I'm over there like wheezing. I'm like. And I'm like, oh man, and obviously I don't want him to see his dad passing out. So I'm just like, hey, how about I take a little nap? But it's really just me passing out. I'm just like, hey, did I ever teach you how to check somebody's pulse?
No.
I'm gonna need you to check mine in about an hour.
Here, son, this is called an EpiPen.
Yeah, this is called an EpiPen. If I go into shock, just stab me right
in
here.
my thigh.
Right in the thigh, homie.
So did you? So was that like the first time around? Like your son, that was a big motivator for getting fit and stuff, along with everything else. Like
Yeah, I think. But you know what? I think it wasn't necessarily that it was him the motivation. I think it was the change of life that was my motivation. Just because I'm like I said, it's like I wanted to be healthier. I wanted to be there for him. And then that's when all these changes started happening. Almost like I not necessarily an epiphany, because that came from shrooms. Sorry to say.
No.
But the epiphany did come from shrooms. But by then I was
Everybody
already,
told me about that too.
Yeah. The epiphany came from the shrooms, but at the same time, I was already in that state of mind. So I guess it made it easier to make that transition. And so that's when I was like, you know what? She left. I'm gonna dedicate myself to just bettering my life. So yeah, I lost the weight. At the end of the year, I quit State Farm. Not because they were assholes or anything, but just because just wanted something better, and that's when I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna quit, take out my money from my 401k, pay for my CDL school, and and make some better money, and I did.
So how was so you mainly like you're in like, is it like last mile, or is it just in the Dallas area, or with your trucking and everything?
For the most part, I try to stay local, just because I'm not trying to leave my son. A lot of my hat goes off to other over-the-road guys, but I'm like, no, I'm just trying to stay local.
I didn't even know that was an option, being like a trucker. Yeah, like.
No, there's a lot of companies that are local. Like in fact, a lot of companies will actually have their over-the-road guys, but they're being helped by the guys that are local. Because let's say something needs to go out to Houston or whatever, it's a couple loads. So obviously you have to have the local guy pick up everything, bring it to the yard, and then they disperse everything. So there's also mail, the USPS. They have quite a bit of local positioning. FedEx always has local. UPS always has local. So no, there's a lot of companies that specifically try to keep local.
So for you and your range that you normally go to, what is like local for you?
I mean,
is it like all of DFW basically?
I've kind of dipped my toes in everything because I was over the road for a little bit.
Are you? Is it kind of like your own boss kind of thing, or do you work for a company, or?
No. I work for a company right now. Yeah. But no, I don't. I've never driven for myself. Whenever I first got my license, I had to go over the road for 6 weeks with this guy, which was horrible.
You said over the road?
Over the road,
That
meaning
means
out of state, out of whatever. Because so local just means under 100 miles. Then there's regional, which is over the 100 miles, where for the most part, a lot of those just have like a route. So they'll either do like something like, this is just an example, but they'll do like to Houston and back every day or something. They'll go pick up or whatever, bring it back, or they'll go to Houston and then to another little town, and then another one, and then come right back. Regional, that's kind of regional. Regional can go further. Sometimes I know some people do regional. They'll do like 1 or 2 days out, and then they come back. Then they're here for a day or two, and then they go out, and so stuff like that. But over the road means they're just over the road. And
Jeez.
But yeah, over the road.
I was like, oh, they're busting! Oh, shit!
They busted. But no, the over the road just means that they're just traveling all the time. What's crazy is like I ran into this guy, right? He was all pissed off because he was like, they're messing with my money, and I was like, how long have you been over the road, man? And he was like, I haven't stopped for 3 months, and I was like, how the hell?
God.
Yeah, I'm like, how the hell do you sit in a truck for 10 hours for 7 days a week? for 3 months, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, they love the money. You know?
Real built different, man, for real.
Some people are just built differently.
Peterbilt.
No, but it's like those guys are easily racking in like 200K more sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently the whole trucking industry has changed ever since that accident happened in Colorado.
In Colorado?
Remember, it was over the news, that guy that, it was a runaway truck and killed like 24 people or some shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So ever since then, everything has changed as far as laws and stuff. So I was like, it's kind of been interesting to be part of that industry when all that has been going on, because you kind of get an insight of like what's right, what's wrong. Was he in fault? Was he not? Are people exaggerating? Are they idiots? Like that kind of thing. So yeah, it's been kind of interesting.
Is it like what's your thing on it? Is it do you think something consistent with it, or
The what?
What's your like view on it? Does everything seem like consistent with it, or?
Yeah, I enjoy it just because I'm not. I think that was the issue that I was having with State Farm, was the fact that I was just too sediment, you know, just sitting all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get that that's what trucking is.
Yeah, I was about to say.
But at the same time, you're actually looking out the window and seeing things.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, not to sound gay or anything, but it's like it's the coolest thing ever to like just look out your car window or your truck window, and there's like some kind of natural, like, you know, something, you know, out the window. Like, I think the first time that it kind of caught me off guard was like whenever I went to Red something Canyon in Arizona. And it's just like this big old mountain just in the middle of nowhere, right? But you're like driving by and you're just kind of like the entire time you're just kind of like looking into it. And it's kind of cool because it's like, hey, like I get to see this every day, or I get to see new things every day. I get to travel to different places every day. Especially when you have layover, you can go and venture into whatever city you're at. That's kind of what I did in California. What's funny is that whenever I took off, it was in February of 2021. And so what's funny is that I took off, and so we had already, I was like, hey, it's starting to get a little kind of ugly. We were like, no, it's fine. They're just having a little storm, a little snow. And so we make it to California. I call my son's mom and I'm like, hey, like, how are y'all? And she's like, you know, just to check up on my son. I was just like, how are y'all? And she was like, we're over here dying. It's freezing. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
She was like, there was a snowstorm and it's an ice storm. Like, we're like, how do you not know? I'm like,
He pulled a Ted Cruz, man.
yeah, I'm just like, what are you talking about? And she's like, where are you? And I was like, I didn't want to show her, but then my son was like, oh, let's face check. I was at the beach. I was in Santa Monica.
Oh, no.
So I'm like laid out in Santa Monica while they're over there freezing with no power. And my son's like, where are you? And I'm like, at the beach. But that was like the cool thing about it, because we had a 24-hour layover. I guess something about the shipments. I mean, he still got paid, but yeah, we ended up in California for a 24-hour layover. So yeah, I took the train down to downtown, the subway all the way to Santa Monica, and it was a pretty cool experience. Again, just being able to see something, you know.
Yeah.
And so I did California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Oklahoma, Arkansas. Yeah, Chicago. I mean, it's been
Do you get a little bit of time to kind of get a feel for the city, or are you pretty much like in and out?
I hate the city.
No, really?
I hate even though I love local, I hate driving through the city.
Oh, I can imagine. That's like something I thought about all the time. Like, I can imagine trying to get that huge truck maneuver. I can barely get my Buick through some streets. So it's like
I scraped the curb just trying to get in the drive-through.
Yeah, for real. But people are all scared of you. Well, the smart ones are scared of you. They should be. Anyway.
They're not.
I'm scared of you out there. So it is.
The thing about it is, like, you know what? One of the guys that I work with, he kind of threw this out, but I was like, I don't know how that would work, but it's a good idea. He said every person that gets their license should go on a drive-along with the truck driver, the trucker, at least for a day, so they can see exactly what we go through. Dude, people are not scared. They cut us off. They jump in front of us.
I see it all the time.
Yeah, and I'm like, y'all don't understand. We're carrying 80,000 pounds at times. Like, that's our max. We're carrying 80,000 pounds that your little Toyota Camry is not going to do shit to us, you know?
You're not going to, and that's the thing, is like, you're not going to be able to stop. Like, people, have seen, or like they'll, you know, cut people off like in an 18-wheeler, and I've seen like videos where they have a lot of notification, a lot of time, but it's like you can't stop those things. It's like a train, like you know what I mean? Even worse, probably it's even harder to stop a train, or even harder to stop a truck than a train, I would imagine.
I see why you would say that, but I don't know. I guess I would have to go do my research to say
right.
that was true.
Like
because I feel like trains. Yeah, I was
a lot more weight, but a lot more braking power too. I don't know.
That is true.
And it's like trucks, you got to worry about friction because that thing will just kind of slide
well,
off.
Not only that, but people don't realize that it's like same thing. It's like we have 3 sets of brakes. You know, we have 3 sets of brakes that we have to use in a split instant. You know, it's like
like 3, like bam, bam, bam. Like you have to.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, well, not necessarily. It's because we have them to be used, but it's not like we use it every time.
Yeah.
So what it is that in front of the truck, there's a turbine kind of thing. So that's called your engine brake. The first thing you want to do anytime, it's like a lot of truckers will use the engine brake to like slow down at like highways, stuff like that, just because it just kind of pushes the truck back.
What is an engine brake?
The what?
Or what is an engine brake?
Yeah, it's that. It's just like a turbine in front of the engine that just kind of
actually pushes the truck back?
It pushes it. Yeah, it like slows it down. It's like a turbine. So it'll slow down the truck. It slows it down. It doesn't stop it. It just kind of slows it down.
That's pretty crazy, though. I didn't even know that was like.
Yeah, it's your engine brake.
Dang, okay.
In fact, if you ever look in the city, and every now and then you'll see a little sign that says "No engine brake" by city ordinance. They're talking about the truck. Yeah. The reason why is because the old school trucks, they used to make a lot of like noise. So whenever you hit the engine brake, it would go.
Oh.
So cities don't want that.
Gotcha.
So, but nowadays, like they're a lot more quieter. So yeah, you have your engine brake, and then you have a good truck driver will know how to downshift whenever he has to either go downhill or it's he has to slow down. So obviously you want to downshift. So once you hit the engine brake, the downshift, then you want to press your brakes, like your foot brake.
Dang.
Yeah, and the reason why you want to do that is because, again, we're trying to stop 80,000 pounds on a set of brakes. Like those things get hot.
Oh yeah.
They get hot and they can malfunction. So it's like people don't realize that that's another thing that it's like, yeah, we have brakes, but they ain't gonna do much.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, for real, man. It's like the best way to stop a truck is time.
Yeah, time.
For real.
I mean, we can stop, and not only that, but like, let's say the guy does everything right, he slams the brakes, right? You still got to worry about jackknifing the damn thing.
Yeah.
You know. Then
Can you stop it with like skill, or is it just like?
Yeah, even that takes a little bit of skill, just because. So a lot of the trucks nowadays have the trailer brake. So what it does is like if you're going downhill.
Oh.
Yeah, if you're going downhill and it starts jackknifing, you'll kind of feel it. You'll feel the almost like it starts bumping into you.
From under you or something?
No. It starts bumping into you, like the trailer starts bumping it. You almost feel it like bumping in.
Yeesh.
So that's when you want to you want to start either slowing down or like a lot of people will tell you actually speed up a little bit. The reason why you want to speed up is it'll go ahead and attach. You get because what's happening is this, that it's starting to become loose from the truck, right? So it's starting to become a little loose, but once you like hit the gas, it'll snap it back in place.
Is it like about keeping it taut, or is it about?
Yeah, it's about keeping it tight because you don't want to let it loose, because then what happens is like the front starts veering and the back, that's how you end up jackknifing. But if you're going downhill and you're doing that, what a lot of truck drivers will tell you is hit the gas and hit the brake. But the brake is to stop the trailer. So now instead of being all loose, the truck will actually like speed up, and then you hit the brake, and now you're pulling the trailer again. So that's what you want to do. You always want to be able to pull the trailer.
Okay.
Yeah, and so
it's the stuff you learn in the academy, man.
Yeah, that's stuff you learn. But that's the thing. That's the reason why they changed the laws, because they said no, y'all have to go to an academy now because of what happened in Colorado. The guy in Colorado.
You didn't used to be need to.
The what?
You didn't used to need to.
No, it used to be like, oh, you just go down, take the test, and now you have a license. Don't know how to drive it. In fact, when I was over the road for a little bit, at least three times, this should be a little alarming, but at least 3 times I had some guy at the truck stop come and say, hey man, I'll give you $5 if you park my trailer. Like, back it in. And it makes you wonder, like, well, how do you not know how to back it in? I understand why, because some of them go a week or two and they've only backed into a dock like twice because they spent 10 hours, 20 hours driving. So, and a lot of them are dropping hooks. So a lot of them will just be like, hey, drop the trailer here. You don't even have to back it in. Drop it, grab another one and go. So some of them don't learn how to do that. But after what happened in Colorado, they kind of said, no, y'all, we need y'all to take courses. Y'all need to have hours, and you actually need to learn to drive them.
Right.
And so that's kind of the change, because yeah, the guy that happened in Colorado, he had 110 years. 110 years. And another thing is that truck drivers have what they call minimums. So whatever you do, if you cause an accident like this way or that way, there's minimums. And so they gave him 110 because that was the minimum.
Oh, minimum for years.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That he should have gotten that.
That was the 110 was the minimum.
That was the minimum because of all the infractions that he caused and all the accidents he caused. They said, hey, these are all the minimums that added up, so that's why you have 110. But then people that didn't know what was going on, they were like, oh my gosh, that's unfair, and it was an accident. But they didn't realize, A, he didn't know about engine
It's like
brakes.
a point system or something.
Yeah, so he didn't know about the engine brake, he didn't know about downshifting, he didn't know about any of this, and he found out that, and I think that morning he had reported that his brakes were messing up. And you're going in Colorado downhill, that's not a good idea. Not only that, but if you watch the video, he went through 4 off-ramps. Those off-ramps in Colorado have a lot of sand in it, so whenever your truck runs off or something like that, you can just pull into one of those. The sand, it's gonna hurt, but the sand will stop you. He went through 4 and never pulled into one of them. And they're just really long, just strips of sand, and that's what they're there for. Again, if he would have gone to the academy, if he would have gone to a school, they would have told him, in case your truck runs off, go into one of those. And in the little video, you see like 4 of them just walk past by.
I must say, I'm sure for somebody like you that knows that kind of stuff, that had to be painful to watch. Like, just pull over. Yeah.
So then once I saw that, and then they were like, no, they're gonna, everybody started boycotting, and I'm like, y'all idiots. They started boycotting, and then I think they dropped it down to 10 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn it.
I don't know, what side of that are you on? You think he should have gotten that amount of time, or you think it should have been?
Yeah, absolutely. Just because he knew that the brakes were malfunctioning. Right there, scratch the other stuff.
Yeah.
You knew those brakes were bad. You're messing with your people's lives at that point. You knew it. It's, to me, I'm like, that's no different from manslaughter. It's no different from any of those. I'm like, no, he should have gotten way more time. Especially 24 people died.
Yeah.
No. But eventually I went over the road for a little bit, and I didn't like it, and just kind of said, hey, it's better for me to stay here.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the only thing, like, if you are local, I guess you're doing a whole lot more of backing in and doing those close, corners and cutting those close little corners and stuff like that in the city.
Oh,
you ever have to go like downtown and stuff?
I'm a fucking badass.
Yeah.
I hate going through downtown and all these little places like this, because a lot of them will have no trucking, like no truckers.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them will have a sign that says no trucking.
I remember the question I need to ask. Please get going. I'll come back to it.
Yeah, and so a lot of them will have that, and it's funny is because it's like, if you don't have the trucking GPS, if you don't have like a trucker specific GPS, you just put your regular phone GPS, it'll say like turn left, and it's like no trucks. Damn it. It's like, okay, let me go to the next street. No trucks. Damn it.
Okay, so this is something that I have been wondering probably since I was like, 13, maybe younger.
Young lad.
Sign, yeah, very young lad. So the signs, the yellow signs on the top of the bridge that tell you the clearance.
Right.
I've always wondered, like, how do you guys already know what roads? Because, like, I've been on the streets before, and I'm like, if I was driving a giant 18-wheeler and I had a 16-foot clearance and I just saw this sign, like, where am I going to go to get, to not go under this bridge?
Okay.
Like, they don't have exits before these bridges, so I'm wondering, like, do you guys already know with what you were saying, those trucker GPSs, like what bridges you're going to be able to go under?
Yeah. That's the reason why I said the trucking GPS, because those trucking GPSs will, whenever you set it up, it'll ask you like how high is your trailer. So obviously, most of the heights that you come across like with trailers are like 13 feet 6 inches. So for the most part, most states have most states will keep it above 13.6. But I know that towards the East Coast, where there's a lot more older like towns or older bridges and stuff like that, I know a lot of them will have lower than that actually.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's a good idea to have a trucking GPS because those GPSs will actually point you in a direction. Like, they won't actually tell you because they're not going to say like don't go this way.
Yeah.
They'll just say, hey, this is the route to go, and it avoids all of that stuff.
That's cool. Okay, yeah. Because I always wondered about that. Have you ever seen that that death bridge or whatever? The super short one.
So, funny thing is, like in Waxahachie, if you ever go to Waxahachie and the little town that they have the little town, and one of those bridges is like, I think it's like 11.9. And just today they actually posted a picture that said another one, and it's a truck.
Oh no!
Like right into it, yeah. And so right there, that's another thing that they teach you is like, hey, if you ever come across that where you see the sign that says 13.4 or something, you're just like, I'm not making it.
Yeah.
The first thing they tell you is like, stop right there. Like, just stop.
Just stop.
Just stop. So just stop or pull over and to the thing or whatever and call the police. And the police. Yeah. So police are supposed to be trained to say, okay, they get to the scene, they're supposed to cut off the traffic so that you can either get off on the off ramp or get off or try to get you around or back you up or something. So the police are there to help you out in case that does happen. So to me, I'm like, yeah, obviously it's 100 times better to stop traffic and do all of that than to ram a trailer through a goddamn bridge.
You're like, I can make it.
I got this.
I'd be lying though, man. Seeing some of those videos, the way the top comes off, ooh, that's satisfying. Just watching that, it's like peeling a can open. Oh God, I love it.
I've had that, but I think I was in Fort Worth. I think Fort Worth has one that is like 13.6.
Yeah.
The truck is 13.6. So the thing about it is like, I think 13.6 is like at the apex.
Yeah.
So obviously the surrounding is probably a little lower.
So it's like a tunnel?
Yeah, so it's like kind of like a tunnel thing. And so I'm just like, I remember the first time I went through, I almost like hit the brakes. I was like, and I was like, just like going like 1 mile an hour, just like looking up, and I'm like, is it gonna make it? And yeah, that thing made it. So, and I think somebody explained to me that they actually put a couple inches just in case.
Yeah, I was wondering because I was like, just you get out the other side of the tunnel, it's just slightly, all the sharp edges are just rounded off, just ever so slightly.
It's like the top is missing. It's got to. I made it. It's like, why is there such a breeze? But yeah, so yeah, they do have a GPS that's specifically for truck drivers that helps you avoid those types of bridges, helps you avoid a lot of like no trucking, no truckers streets. Yeah. So it helps you avoid a lot of things like that.
What are those signs about the weight? Is it like the road actually will cave in if you drive over those, or is it more just like the class that they're talking about?
No, they will cave in. Yeah, they will cave in because a lot of them are bridges. A lot of times that stuff like that is a bridge, but yeah, if you almost have to kind of guess at it. You know,
because I've seen those on like flat concrete, neighborhood roads or whatever. But those will fall in.
A lot of them keep driving. A lot of them keep driving, and there's usually a bridge somewhere around there. There's always some kind of bridge. There's a reason why they put that sign up there, So, but yeah, like trust me, I've gone down those roads where I'm just like, where I'm like going over a bridge, and I'm like, am I gonna fall?
Get a little cheeky with it.
But for the most part, I think same thing. I think they have a leeway, like hey, we 60,000, but I'm sure that it's a little bit more than that.
Yeah. You gotta account for human error, because like you said, like some people are gonna be like, all right, I got 13 and I'm not going under anything that's like more than or less than like 14 something. And then some people are like,
Well, also you have to consider that the fact that 13.6 is when it's empty. So whenever it has something in it, obviously it's going to drop down a few inches. That's another thing you have to take into consideration. So yeah, it's usually, in fact,
that seems like you're getting in trouble. Like,
in fact, it's probably an empty trailer is worse than a full trailer. To be honest. Huh?
In general,
in general, just because an empty trailer, there's a lot of wind. That trailer is moving. You want to brake, it's going to jackknife easier. Same thing, it's taller, so same thing, those bridges. So
catches more wind when it's taller.
Yeah.
What's the height difference you're thinking, like?
A few inches, I would say. It also depends on how much weight you're putting into them. But yeah, they'll drop down a few inches after you put all that weight on it, I'm sure.
Do you have like a preference on your haul? Like the type of stuff that you haul? Do you ever even know what you're bringing?
Oh man, like half the time, like whenever. Okay, so I was working for this hazmat company, right? And half the time they were just like, you don't need to know what's in there. And I would read like the BOL, sorry, and it would say like artillery or like, or sometimes they would just tell me like, hey, make sure you get back to your yard in this amount of time, and I'm like, why? Or like whenever you're getting your hazmats, whenever you're getting your hazmat endorsement, you have to kind of go through a little course now. But it'll be something like kind of scary because it'll be like, yeah, when you got this chemical here, you want to keep it at least this far away from it, and you want to do this, and you don't want to put these two together. This one can't, and I'm just like, wait, what?
What y'all got me pulling?
Yeah, I was like, wait, how far away does this have to be from each other? And what happens if they touch? You know,
it'll get really bright at first, and then, you don't want to know what happens.
it's like, look, just put it to you this way. You won't feel a thing. It's like, wow, all right.
It won't be your problem anymore.
Yeah. I remember I was just like, yeah, I remember the first time that I had to haul like a fuel truck to like the rail yards to like dispose of it or whatever.
Did you do all that in the academy? So you were like ready? Oh,
no,
it was extra stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I went after the academy. I went and got my hazmat and tankers and and triples and doubles and all that shit.
Okay.
But the first time I carried it, I was like, "What is in it?" And they're like, "Oh, it's just like used up fuel or it's old fuel or just I can't remember what it was, but it was fuel that you had to go jump out at the rail yard."
Yeah.
And so they connect you. Once you get there, they connect it. They suck it out. You go back. But my first thing is like, I think I was having a bad day that day. I was like, these motherfuckers better not piss me off. I'll blow up the whole fucking city. I'll blow this bitch up.
Just like stab a hole in it and just start driving.
Just fucking light that shit up. I was like, they better not piss me off. I'm not in the mood for today.
It's too much power.
Yeah.
For one man.
What did Kanye say? No man should have this much power. I got to wait for that. But
You're like, I just drive this bitch off a bridge right now.
I'll fucking kill every motherfucker here.
All right, man. Well, I wanted to ask you, like, we can kind of get it wrapped up a little bit, but do you have anything, especially being a trucker, that you want to, like, tell people, or do you have anything that, you know, you want to get out there, or any opinions or stuff that you think people should know, or, like, you know, what you want to see in the world, or maybe just, you know, if you were talking to just anybody right now, what would you want to tell them just off the street?
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people and truck drivers that, you know, because when we train to drive a truck, they always tell you you're driving to keep them safe, not yourself. You're driving to keep them safe. So people need to realize that that's what we're doing. We're there to make a living, and we're there to go home just like they are. So that's all we want to do. There's a lot of people that are really nice, and they see a truck, you know, have their blinkers on, and they slow down and they'll flash your lights saying, hey, you know, come on in. Those people, I love them. You know, by all means, love those people. I just wish more people would do that. You know, they would that right there is keeping everybody safe, you know? Because then what happens is, like, if I can't squeeze in and my exit's like right coming up, it's like, hey, I kind of have to bully my way through, and that's not good. I've had people where it's like they see me trying to merge and they speed up, you know, and I'm like, you're not Fast and the Furious. You're not going to go under the damn trailer. You know, that's not true. That doesn't happen. And so I'm just like, no, I just wish that more people would take that in consideration, that it's like, hey, we're carrying a lot of weight, and we're just trying to keep things safe, and that's really it.
Are there any, like, little points, like stuff like that, when you're saying when the truck's trying to move over? Is there anything that you want to try to get out there that maybe people wouldn't normally think about when driving around trucks that would make everybody safer?
Honestly, I think that's the biggest thing, is just if you see a truck trying to go in, don't try to beat them. Don't try to speed up. It's like, just don't, you know? Just slow down a little bit, flash your blinkers that lets me know, hey, I can come in, and that's it. You know, it's very simple. So that's the thing that I'm like, you like, any truck driver will thank you just by doing that, you know? In fact, the cool thing is, like, that's what truck drivers do. Like, in the middle of the night, like 2, 3 in the morning, that's what truck drivers do. They you know, if they see somebody like speeding up and they're going past them, they'll actually slow down and just be like, they'll flash their blinkers, letting them know, like, hey, go on in. We got you.
And it's like, a lot of people don't realize that they, you know, they're all like, oh, you know, you guys are driving so slow, but it's like, you're driving so slow because you have to. It's like, you have
kind of have to.
X amount, yeah, you have X amount of time and X amount of weight when you're working with. And,
yeah, we're on a crunch. Like, you know, a lot of the people that are over the road, they have a deadline to meet. You know, that's how they get paid. You know, they tell you
big, one exit miss can be a big.
One exit miss could be. In fact, like Walmart's a dick. Walmart, if you're more than just a couple minutes late, they'll just cancel your entire thing. Funny thing is, like, just like every industry is gonna have their assholes, right? I found out like all the shit that people do as far as truck drivers to each other.
Yeah.
I was like, we're just as bad as anybody else. What, crazy thing is, same thing. Whenever I was in the academy, they made such a huge deal about human trafficking and prostitution and drugs. And I remember I was like, holy shit, like this is cool, you know? I'm sitting there writing it down and I'm just like, all right. To this day, I still have not been offered solicited any drugs or sex or kids, nothing, you know? I'm just like,
Nothing.
yeah. I'm just like, y'all liars? Like, I'm over here, like, I go to like churches and I'm like, where's the coke, you know?
They just look at you and they're like, oh, this guy's good. He's already involved.
I'm just like, man, y'all lied. Y'all made it seem like every truck stop is gonna be rampant, you know, just. I'm like, to this day, I still haven't seen a prostitute. You know, that's the part where I'm just like, y'all liars.
He's like, where are my lot lizards?
Where are my lot lizards? Where are them sticky ladies? So yeah, I'm just like, man, that kind of. I'm like, did y'all like eradicate all of them? Like, are they?
They were serious, man. Yeah, so they were serious about it.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if this is a good thing or not. I was like, I kind of wanted to see it before y'all got rid of them.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, they kind of warned us about all that. They were like, yeah, if you see any kids or shit like that, like make sure you call the police. And I was like, cool. Because yeah, like the people don't realize truckers themselves are kind of a bit of a community too. So it's like, sometimes like in the middle of the night where they're sitting there talking shit on the CB radio, but it's not to talk shit like to be mean. It's more like talking shit just to like stay away. Yeah, camaraderie, just talking shit and just, it's funny, you know, it's just funny listening to the like, oh, look at that Peterbilt, piece of shit, man. It's like, what you got there, Cascadia, pussy? You know, they're not talking shit like to hurt anybody's feelings. They're just talking shit to pass the time, you know?
Yeah.
And it's the funniest thing ever. CB radios at night, 2, 3 in the morning, radios, they're the funniest things ever.
All right, we heard it here. Go get a CB radio.
Go get a CB radio.
I think everybody, honestly, can you imagine how like great and toxic it would be if everybody had a CB radio in their car and it was just,
yeah.
You cut me off, asshole. Like
no, well, what's funny is like they sit there and like mess with each other. They really do. Like one of them will pass by, they'll be like, brown truck, what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you turning? And or they're sitting there trying to like, you know, back in the truck and they're like, da-na, or they're just making weird noises. They're just like, beep, beep. And it's the funniest shit ever. And like you hear everybody like, you see like all the truck drivers like in their window and they're sitting there just like cracking up and just laughing. It's like we ain't got nothing better to do, so might as well make friends, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah.
And I hope you had a great time. I know I did. I had a great time.
I enjoyed
catching up with an old friend.
Yeah.
As always. Yeah. And
because you know what's funny about that? That you know how you never know who's gonna come into your life and who's gonna leave, you know? And it's crazy to think how many people have walked out to the point where you almost kind of realize like how rare it is to keep somebody in, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's very important, you know? Just because like, just think about it that way. Like how many people have walked out? How many people you just don't talk to anymore? How many people ignore you and stuff like that? And then you get somebody that is just like, you know, once a week, hey man, how's it going? And it's like, I don't know, man, what the fuck? You know, and it's like, that's the coolest thing ever, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the coolest shit ever. So I'm glad.
And I like that, you know, that my door's always open for you to hit me up, and, you know, it could be however long, and we're just going to start it right back up like we're next to each other in the cubicle again, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do next time. We just need to sit down and talk philosophy.
Yeah.
Speak some philosophy. I
need to go somewhere private so we can just scream our political views at each other.
Yeah, strip club.
Not scary. Yeah, sure.
Strip club is the perfect place.
I think the audio is already questionable enough here that we don't need Juicy J bumping through 808 speakers and women screaming at us and gunshots flying off.
It's like, how do you feel about Buddha? Well, welcome to the stage. Amber, her boyfriend's at the bar. Make sure you tip her. Yeah, I feel Buddha is such a great guy.
Like, I love Jesus. I avoid sin at all costs. And he's like, push it down. It's in the back.
Big booty hoe.
Yeah, it's like, okay, all right.
But no, yeah, I hope, I get invited again. This was a pretty cool thing, and hopefully next time we can talk a little bit more philosophy and just a little bit more deeper on
Absolutely.
life.
All right. That's a wrap.
Everyone's a celebrity. Everyone's got their own story. Come along and join me. We're gonna be a celebrity.
Celebrity. Bro!
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Eusebio Gomez. Apparently, you can just find him at a local Bellagreen eating carrot cake. Now, he did want to leave you with one special thing. It's going to be a link that I'm going to leave in the description below, but it's a $10 off coupon for an app called Klarna. Basically, Klarna lets you make smaller purchases on larger things, like Eusebio used it to buy his iPods, and he just wanted to share the wealth with everybody. He gets 10% off, and you guys do too, so really go ahead and check that out if it sounds like something you're interested in. But otherwise, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.